Elizabeth Taylor. Just the name conjures up images of dazzling violet eyes, epic films, and a love life so dramatic it made her movies look tame. 8 marriages to 7 different men. A journey filled with dizzying highs, crushing lows, and secrets that have been locked away for decades. Today, we're unlocking them. From fairy tale weddings that mask private nightmares to passionate affairs that shook the world, this is the story of Elizabeth Taylor's relentless search for a love that could survive the glare of Hollywood. Number 7. Conrad Hilton Jr. Elizabeth Taylor was just 18, a global superstar when she first walked down the aisle in 1950. Her groom, Conrad Hilton Jr., the 23-year-old heir to the Hilton Hotel empire. Now, if you think this was some quiet secret affair, think again. The wedding itself was a massive Hollywood spectacle, orchestrated and paid for by MGM, Taylor's studio, to promote her new film, Father of the Bride. Imagine this: 600 high-profile guests inside the Church of the Good Shepherd in Beverly Hills, with another 3,000 fans swarming the streets outside. Her dress, an MGM creation by Helen Rose, cost $3,500, a fortune back then. But here's the first secret. This fairy tale wedding was a horrifying lie. The real secret wasn't the wedding, but the nightmare that began almost immediately behind closed doors. Taylor herself said, "The honeymoon in Europe lasted 2 weeks. I should say the marriage lasted for 2 weeks. Then came, yours sincerely, disillusionment, rude and brutal." Hilton's behavior reportedly changed on their wedding night. He started drinking heavily, a habit that plagued their short union. He preferred gambling all night to spending time with his young bride, even getting annoyed when people called him Mr. Taylor. But it was worse than just neglect. Taylor endured severe emotional and verbal abuse. She testified, "He was indifferent to me and used abusive language." Even more tragically, she suffered physical abuse. She once chillingly admitted, "I was a bit of a punching bag." Some sources even point to Hilton's heroin addiction as a factor in his destructive behavior. The most horrific claim that Hilton kicked a pregnant Taylor in the stomach, causing a miscarriage. For an 18-year-old incredibly famous, but also incredibly sheltered by the studio system, this was a brutal awakening. She later confessed, "I was a virgin, not just physically, but mentally. I was not prepared to be an adult. My troubles all started because I have a woman's body and a child's emotions." After just 205 days in January 1951, the marriage was over, granted on grounds of mental cruelty. Elizabeth, showing incredible strength even then, refused any alimony from the wealthy Hilton. Number 6. Michael Wilding. After the disaster with Nicky Hilton, Elizabeth, still incredibly young, craved peace and stability. She found herself drawn to Michael Wilding, a distinguished British actor 20 years her senior. He seemed to be everything Hilton wasn't: mature, calm, and established. In a bold move for a young woman in the early 1950s, Taylor proposed to him. Their wedding in February 1952 was deliberately low-key compared to her first, a civil ceremony at Caxton Hall in London. She wore a smart suit, again by Helen Rose, a far cry from the traditional bridal gown. Still, her fame meant huge crowds gathered. This marriage brought her 2 sons, Michael Jr. and Christopher. Taylor embraced motherhood, claiming her career took second place to her family. But a new problem emerged as Taylor's star ascended to dizzying new heights, especially with Giant in 1956. Wilding's career stagnated in Hollywood. She became the primary breadwinner, a role reversal Wilding reportedly struggled with in that era. The age gap, initially a comfort, started to show cracks. Taylor later admitted she dominated him, saying, "I thought he dominated me, but he didn't. And I need someone to dominate me." Their relationship cooled, becoming more like brother and sister. Then came the scandals. Confidential magazine, a notorious scandal sheet, published stories alleging Wilding entertained strippers while Taylor was away filming Giant. Months later, they ran a story about Taylor having an affair with actor Victor Mature. Amidst this, a moment of crisis showed Taylor's incredible strength. In May 1956, their close friend Montgomery Clift had a near-fatal car accident after leaving their home. Taylor rushed to the scene and saved his life by clearing his airway. But even such intense, shared experiences couldn't save the marriage. They announced their separation in the summer of 1956, and the divorce was finalized in January 1957. Taylor had sought calm, but Hollywood, and perhaps her own evolving needs, made that a fleeting dream. Number 5. Mike Todd. Elizabeth Taylor's third marriage to producer Mike Todd was a whirlwind of passion, extravagance, and ultimately heartbreaking tragedy. Todd was everything her previous husbands weren't. A larger-than-life showman, 23 years her senior, who exuded confidence and could con the gold out of your teeth. Taylor said he swept her off her feet. They made their first major public appearance in October 1956. At the premiere of Todd's Oscar-winning film Around the World in 80 Days. The courtship was fast and furious. Todd didn't ask her to marry him. He told her they were getting married. He showered her with gifts, including a 29.4-carat diamond engagement ring she dubbed her ice skating rink. He gave it to her while she was still legally married to Michael Wilding, a testament to his audacious style. They married on February 2, 1957, in Acapulco, Mexico, just 2 days after her divorce from Wilding was finalized. It was a simple civil ceremony, a stark contrast to her first wedding, yet still a major news event. Eddie Fisher was Todd's best man, and his then-wife, Debbie Reynolds, was Taylor's matron of honor. A detail that would become achingly ironic later, Taylor wore a distinctive hydrangea blue silk chiffon gown with a dramatic hood. Life with Todd was, by Taylor's accounts, incredibly happy. She called him one of her true great loves. He made her feel like a queen and taught her how to receive love. Their daughter Liza was born in August 1957. Todd reveled in their public life, throwing a party for 18,000 people at Madison Square Garden for his film's anniversary. However, there are darker whispers. Donald Spoto's biography described their union as alternately violent and loving, though Taylor's own accounts don't corroborate this. More disturbingly, some sources claim Todd had doctors sterilize Taylor after Liza's difficult C-section birth. A profound allegation that, if true, adds a disturbing layer to his dominant persona. The dream ended with shocking suddenness. On March 22, 1958, Mike Todd was killed when his private plane, the Lucky Liz, crashed in New Mexico. Taylor was supposed to be on that flight, but stayed home due to a cold, an act Todd insisted upon. She was plunged into inconsolable grief, later saying, "I honestly didn't think I would survive." This tragic end cemented their romance as a Hollywood legend. A fiery, passionate love cut short. 4. Eddie Fisher. The death of Mike Todd left Elizabeth Taylor shattered, and into this void of grief stepped Eddie Fisher, Todd's best friend, and at the time, husband to Debbie Reynolds, one of Taylor's closest friends. What began as a consolation between two people mourning, Todd soon exploded into one of Hollywood's biggest scandals. Fisher, dispatched by Reynolds to comfort Taylor, ended up having an affair with her. The story broke when Reynolds famously called Taylor's hotel room, and Fisher answered. The public outcry was immediate and brutal. Fisher was leaving America's sweetheart and their 2 young children for the recently widowed Taylor. Taylor was branded a home wrecker, while Reynolds was the innocent victim. Fisher's TV show was canceled. Taylor, however, remained defiant, famously quipping, "Well, Mike is dead and I'm alive. What do you expect me to do? Sleep alone?" Behind the headlines, the secret was more complex. Taylor later confessed she never loved Eddie and that their shared connection to Mike Todd was their only bond. She felt sorry for him and used him as a way to keep Mike's memory alive. For Fisher, who reportedly worshipped Todd, being with Taylor might have seemed like a way to stay close to his friend's orbit, or perhaps an opportunistic move, as his own marriage to Reynolds was reportedly strained. Carrie Fisher, their daughter, put it bluntly. Her father consoled her with flowers, and ultimately, he consoled her with his penis. They married on May 12, 1959, just 3.5 hours after Fisher's divorce from Reynolds was finalized. The wedding took place at Temple Beth Shalom in Las Vegas. Taylor, who had converted to Judaism prior to the wedding, wore a distinctive deep green hooded gown. Mike Todd Jr., Elizabeth's son, was a witness, but the marriage was, in Taylor's words, one big, awful, frigging mistake that she knew about even before the wedding, but didn't know how to get out of. Fisher reportedly became jealous and possessive, living in Todd's shadow. Taylor took sleeping pills nightly to minimize her time with him, and even claimed he became menacing, sitting with a gun at night. Despite this, they projected a united front, especially when Taylor won her Oscar for Butterfield 8, a film she felt exploited her scandalous image and in which Fisher had a role. The arrival of Richard Burton on the set of Cleopatra in 1962 marked the true end. The affair was immediate and scandalous, leaving Fisher humiliated and marginalized. Taylor divorced Fisher in March 1964, leaving behind a relationship born from grief and destined for heartbreak. Number 3. Richard Burton. Marriage is 1 and 2. If one love story defines Elizabeth Taylor, it's her epic, turbulent, twice-enacted marriage to Richard Burton. Liz and Dick, their names became synonymous with passionate love, explosive fights, lavish lifestyles, and a scandal that rocked the world. Their affair ignited on the set of Cleopatra in Rome in 1962. Though they'd met briefly years before, this time was different. Their first on-screen kiss famously continued long after the director yelled, "Cut!" Both were married at the time. Taylor to Eddie Fisher, Burton to Sybil Williams. The affair, dubbed Liz Scandal, became a global sensation, even drawing condemnation from the Vatican. The relentless media attention, rather than breaking them, seemed to forge an us-against-the-world bond. Eddie Fisher was left humiliated, and Sybil Burton, who had endured previous infidelities, eventually filed for divorce. 9 days after her divorce from Fisher, Taylor married Burton on March 15, 1964, in Montreal. She wore a canary yellow chiffon dress. Thus began a decade of unparalleled extravagance, private jets, homes on multiple continents, and legendary jewels, including the 69.42-carat Taylor Burton diamond. They were the most famous and infamous couple in the world, but the glamour hid a stormy reality. Their arguments were legendary, loud, profane, and often alcohol-fueled. Taylor said their fights were delightful screaming matches, while Burton admitted it could be murder. Jealousy was a constant trigger, as were professional rivalries. Yet these fights often led to passionate reconciliations. Beneath the chaos, there was a deep intellectual and emotional connection. Burton's diaries reveal his profound love for Taylor. "I am madly in love with her. I still miss her if she goes to the bathroom." They shared a love for literature and poetry. They made 11 films together, including the iconic Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, for which Taylor won her second Oscar, playing a role that chillingly mirrored their own volatile dynamic. Their blended family included Taylor's children, Michael, Christopher, and Liza, whom Burton adopted, and Maria, whom they adopted together. But alcoholism was a destructive force. Both drank heavily, fueling their conflicts. After 10 tumultuous years, they divorced in June 1974. Burton wrote to her, "The fire, of course, is you." But they couldn't stay apart. They remarried on October 10, 1975, in a remote village in Botswana, Taylor wearing a rainbow-hued tie-dye dress. This secret attempt at a fresh start away from the spotlight was doomed. The same destructive patterns resurfaced, and the second marriage lasted less than a year, ending in divorce in July 1976. Taylor lamented, "I love Richard with every fiber of my soul, but we can't be together." Yet their bond endured beyond divorce. They remained in frequent contact, even reuniting on stage in private lives in 1983. Taylor claimed Burton's final letter to her, received after his death in 1984, expressed his desire to come home. She always called him one of the great loves of her life. Number 2. John Warner. Seeking a different path after the whirlwind of Richard Burton, Elizabeth Taylor embarked on her sixth marriage, this time to John Warner, a Virginia gentleman, former Secretary of the Navy, and aspiring Republican politician. They met on a blind date in July 1976, when Warner escorted Taylor to a British embassy dinner, honoring Queen Elizabeth II. Taylor was reportedly bowled over, particularly by Warner's Virginia horse farm, which appealed to her lifelong love of riding and her desire for a more grounded life. Their courtship was swift. They were engaged by September and married on December 4, 1976, in an intimate sunset ceremony on Warner's Atoka farm. Taylor wore a violet cashmere dress and a tweed and fur coat, a far cry from her usual glamour. This private wedding signaled her hope for a new, less tumultuous chapter. Then came the 1978 Senate campaign. Taylor transformed into a tireless political campaigner for 23 months, kissing babies, speechifying, ribbon-cutting, and drawing huge crowds. Her fame was an undeniable asset. The physical toll was immense, with handshaking leading to broken blood vessels. A dramatic incident where she choked on a chicken bone just weeks before the election even made national headlines. With some speculating, the resulting sympathy helped Warner win his narrow victory. But being Mrs. Senator came with a strict set of rules. Taylor, outspoken and vibrant, was expected to be seen and not heard. She was advised against wearing her signature purple, encouraged to wear conservative tweeds, and to stash away her famous jewels. She found it incredibly difficult, saying, "Washington is the hardest town for a woman. It's like your lips are sealed. You are a robot." She largely set aside her acting career. The secret of this marriage was the profound loneliness and loss of identity Taylor experienced. "I don't think I've ever been so alone in my life as when I was Mrs. Senator," she wrote. Warner became consumed by his Senate duties, famously declaring he'd never miss a roll call. Taylor felt she had no function. Her attempts to fit into this new world led to personal struggles, including weight gain and reported dependency on alcohol and medication. Her return to Broadway in The Little Foxes in 1981 was a turning point, a reclaiming of her identity. The marriage unraveled, and they announced their separation in December 1981, divorcing in November 1982. Taylor famously said, "We got along wonderfully until he decided to be a politician." And then he married the Senate. Remarkably, their parting was amicable, and they remained good friends. This chapter, though challenging, paved the way for Taylor's powerful emergence as a pioneering AIDS activist. Number 1. Larry Fortensky. Elizabeth Taylor's eighth and final marriage was perhaps her most unexpected. In 1988, at the Betty Ford Clinic, where she was reportedly being treated for pill addiction or overeating, she met Larry Fortensky, a construction worker 20 years her junior, who was there for alcoholism. Taylor said they met, "at our most vulnerable, forging a connection in the raw environment of recovery." Fortensky wasn't starstruck. He remembered Taylor as funny and sweet. His normalcy was a huge part of his appeal to Taylor, who had lived a life of extraordinary fame. She valued his protective nature, saying, "Larry sees through the world of bullshit I live in." Their wedding on October 6, 1991, was anything but normal. It was a $1.5 to $2 million spectacle held at Michael Jackson's Neverland Ranch. Jackson, a close friend, escorted Taylor down the aisle. The guest list included 160 high-profile names like Liza Minnelli and Nancy Reagan. Taylor wore a $25,000 Valentino gown. The event was a media circus, with paparazzi and helicopters, and one even parachuting onto the grounds. Taylor cleverly sold the wedding photos to People magazine for $1 million, using the proceeds to establish the Elizabeth Taylor AIDS Foundation, ETAF. Initially, they tried to blend their worlds. Taylor respected Fortensky continuing his construction job, waking early to make his breakfast. He, in turn, found her childish in her delight for simple things. But the pressure of Taylor's fame was immense. Fortensky confessed, "Those cameras everywhere. I never got used to it." Even Taylor sending a chef-prepared lunch in a limo to his construction site caused him embarrassment. A turning point came when Fortensky stopped working, reportedly at Taylor's urging. This seemed to erode his identity and purpose. Taylor allegedly said, "He stopped working." You can't have love without respect. Fortensky reportedly started drinking again and struggled with anger. They separated in August 1995, and the divorce was finalized in October 1996, after 5 years. Taylor said, "We were not able to communicate." Yet their bond didn't end. They had a prenuptial agreement giving Fortensky $1 million after 5 years. But Taylor continued to support him financially, giving him $50,000 to save his house from foreclosure in 2009 and reportedly a monthly stipend. They spoke on the phone regularly. A year before her death in 2011, she wrote him a letter saying, "You are very dear to me and always will be." Her final act of care was leaving him $800,000 in her will. Elizabeth Taylor's journey through 8 marriages was more than just a series of romantic entanglements. It was a relentless quest for a love that could withstand the immense pressures of her fame, her personal demons, and the ever-watchful eye of the world.